Hello and welcome to the United Stand, the fitting image of the Busby Babes there as we build towards what is a very sad time, the 60th anniversary, and obviously I'm joined by Flex tonight. No visuals tonight because we had a late dropout at the last minute. We're not going to name her, but Flex, nice to have you with us.
Yeah, nice to be back. Actually, I've missed the last couple of weeks.
Hello,
and
welcome
yeah,
to
all
the
good.
United Stand, the
Yeah,
fitting
thanks.
image of the Busby Babes. You've muted it. That's fine. I can hear myself back there. Anyway, let's fly into it. Jose Mourinho questions Manchester United's fans' passion. It's the third time this has happened, and it's to do with the atmosphere at Old Trafford. And you were there yesterday, Flex. So interested to get your views on this. Well, we were talking about 20 minutes ago actually about how we do the watch-alongs for the Manchester United games, and yesterday there was you were quite surprised when I said at half-time there was loads and loads of people saying Mourinho out. But you're quite sympathetic to Mourinho and the reasons why Old Trafford. He says it's very quiet. He says Portsmouth has a better atmosphere.
Yeah. First of all, can you hear me all right? Yeah. So
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. It's a really. I understand both sides of the coin because Old Trafford is quiet a lot of the time. A lot of the away fans come to Old Trafford and they're like, is this a library? Is this, they do give it a bit of stick. But we've got to remember, I think a lot of it is down to Man United is the biggest club in the world, or arguably one of, yeah. And every single match day at Old Trafford, we've got people there. We've got thousands of people there who've come from all around the world, from far and wide. And it's their first games. It's their first games at Old Trafford. They don't know the songs. They're taking in the atmosphere. They're taking a lot of pictures. And I know, your stereotypical hardcore fan will be like, oh, there's too many tourists, etc., etc. But it's like Manchester United is the biggest club in the world, and that's what happens. You get people from far and wide, and I speak to fans every week, and some of them they fly over all the way from America just for like an average game against what we would call an average game against Bournemouth. Like this is huge amounts of dedication, and I know some people say it's too many tourists, but what do you want? We're a victim of our own success. It's kind of like we're a massive club. Yes, it's a club that's based in Manchester. We understand that, but the way it's grown, it's a global entity, and we can't moan that there's people from all around the world there. They can't make it every week. So a lot of the times there is a lot of tourists, but I think that is the reason why a lot of the time the songs aren't as fluent. It's not loud all the time, and sometimes even the people been going for years and years, they're just really peed off by what they're seeing. So even they don't sing. Do you know what I mean? So it's a mixture of both, in my opinion. Yeah.
We are on 189,915. So if someone's not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe because it'd be great to hit 190,000 while we're live tonight. Looking at some of the comments, one of the worst grounds in the country for home support, says Breach 69. And give us reasons to be passionate, and we will be, says AS7 Alexi. And too many tourists, says Dami Abraham. I detest this comment. I detest this tourist comment. I find it really, really offensive because it's a little bit what Flex said there and a little bit about why I support Manchester United. I support Manchester United. I'm not from Manchester. I'm from Nottingham. I haven't been to Manchester loads and loads of times. I've been to quite a few Manchester United games, but I don't spend any time in Manchester. I don't really have any affiliation with Manchester. But I support Manchester United because my granddad supported Manchester United. My granddad supports Manchester, or used to support Manchester United. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, because of the Busby Babes. He didn't support them because of a sympathy, because of the tragedy. There's a myth around that a lot of people started supporting Manchester United because of the tragedy. A lot of people, like my granddad, started supporting Manchester United because Sir Matt Busby was the first manager really to grab like youth and sort of bring it in from all around the country and create a team that nobody had ever done before. So you had Duncan Edwards from Dudley, you had Sir Bobby Charlton from up Newcastle way, and he brought in this youth talent and won. He won two Premier League or First Division titles before the tragedy. The country was encapsulated by this side. It was exciting. There was the international football meant a lot then, and England were going towards the '58 World Cup as one of the favourites, with people like Byrne and Edwards and Tommy Taylor in it from Manchester United. So Manchester United have always been a club for many, many years that draws in attention outside of Manchester. So I hate and detest the tourist thing. Now, obviously, in the modern day, that global reach is happening for a lot of clubs, but Manchester United have had a global support for many, many years. And like Flex says there, you cannot criticise fans just because it's their first time at Old Trafford. They might be on a pilgrimage from LA, from India, from Australia. They might have saved hundreds of pounds to come over and do it. So I detest that. Oh, it's tourists. I detest this. They're not locals, let's lower the price. Because like you were saying, Flex, it's not actually that expensive for locals to get a ticket unless, you know, they're really hard up.
Exactly. I mean, there's plenty of other grounds. Arsenal fans say a lot about the amounts they pay for season tickets, and the price there is to get a ticket. But, you know, at Man United, you can get a ticket for £30 minimum upwards, you know, and obviously your juniors and your younger fans are less, and your senior fans are less than that. But, you know, I think it is accessible. It is accessible, which is good. That's what we want. But I do see both sides of the coin, because there are, although I'm saying, you know, about the fans being from far and wide, etc. I understand that. But I have seen plenty of times where we don't actually get loud until we score, like kind of sing when you're winning. Yeah. So there is a lot of that to it as well. And that is something that we can improve on. You know, it doesn't have to be singing the actual songs, just cheering and just cheering the team on, just to try and score and be on the front foot. So that's something that, you know, there's 60-odd, 50,000 season ticket holders. You know, we could get better at that. So that does stem from the brand of football that we're playing, and we're trying to get used to not playing the Sir Alex way, etc., etc. But overall, I just think it's harsh to say there's too many tourists and because what do you want? You know, the reason why we've got all this money to spend on players and be the way we are and be such a lucrative club is because of all these supporters far and wide. So I think people who are saying there's too many tourists need to be careful what they're wishing for, because it's that support that makes the club exactly what it is.
Yeah, Zahid Dahoud says, as a die-hard United fan, I agree with Mourinho regarding atmosphere inside the ground. We should be more vocal, and perhaps the United stand can play an important role in getting noise levels up. Look, the last Man United game I was at was Chelsea last April, and I was stunned actually. I was sat watching a game of football and got asked 3 times by people in the row below me to take a selfie while the game's going on. I nearly launched their phone at the pitch. I think that sort of tourism is another level. You know, most people who watch the United stand globally, I don't think you would do that. I don't think you're going to turn around and say, can I have a selfie while you're 20 minutes into a game. But we had DT on the other week. I mean, he holds his phone up, doesn't he, while he's watching the game. So, you know, football develops. It doesn't mean just because you're doing that, it doesn't mean that you're not a proper fan. But I just think I remember, I can't remember what the game was. It was quite recently, and I sort of, not a massive Mourinho fan, but I sort of fall into that category of the onus is on the players and the manager. I mean, I remember under Sir Alex Ferguson that sort of, if it was a big game, first 5 minutes, you could tell what he'd said to Everett and Neville or whoever the fullbacks were. Get it wide, bomb on, get people in the box, put crosses in, and the crowd will react. And then that would set the tone for the game. You get the crowd up in the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then they're up, they're cooked. It's a bit like cooking a chicken, isn't it? You know, get it in, blast the heat up, and let's crack on with it. I think at the moment we're sort of stuck between that position of the fans. It's very hard to get fake atmosphere. Like I said, so many people were bored at half-time yesterday, and so many fans have been bored over 4 years. It's very difficult to fake enthusiasm. And be like, oh yeah, come on, when you're not being entertained. And so I do empathise with that. I think there's some middle ground, is what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly it. I mean, you can't look. It's a hard one, because that energy does come from the players. You know, it comes from the performance. It usually, if there's nothing going on in the game, it takes for like a hard tackle or a good run, a persevering run, or chasing somebody down, and that's infectious on the crowd. But sometimes we want to go, well, not even sometimes, we want it to go back to that it's a fortress, you know, the theatre of dreams. You come there and teams are already beaten before they've stepped on the pitch because of the noise, because of the history of the club, and because of, you know, Man United. But we don't have that anymore, since obviously Sir Alex is gone, and we haven't won a Premier League since, and we're still in that rebuilding process. We've struggled with our identity. We've struggled. I mean, there were times when we had Moyes and Van Gaal, where literally teams were coming to Old Trafford and having a right go at us. Do you know what I mean? They weren't scared. They weren't reluctant to push forward. Even under Mourinho last season, when we had a lot of the ball, teams would say, right, I tell you what, they're not in great form. They're not very creative. We'll just sit back. We'll sit compact. We'll sit tight, and we'll nick a goal. And that used to happen time after time last season. So we're trying to reinvigorate our side in terms of the identity, because that's what's going to get fans back on. I mean, during the game, during the first half, I had fans in and around me saying, this is boring, why are we passing sideways, why are we going back? Even we are just being patient, because I think Mourinho said in his press conference, you know, against teams that can't sit back, yes, you need to have a balance between patience and penetration. You can't go all guns blazing against a team that is just sitting there compact. You have to pick the right moments to pass forward, pick the right times to overlap. You can't just, do you know what I mean, go all gung-ho as much as we want to see it. But like, this is football. But it does come from the players, and it does come from the performances, and it is hard for fans to start screaming at the top of your voice, getting excited when your team is literally, Chris Smalling's got the ball and he's passing it back to De Gea. Valencia comes short, he passes it into Matches, he goes back to Jones, he goes out to Luke Shaw, then we come back to De Gea. It is hard, you're not going to get excited about that. So I understand both sides of the coins, but we need to get to a point where we're trying to encourage the players to you know, get that atmosphere, because if not, we're just going to find ourselves on the players' backs all the time.
Yeah. Robert Fahy says, atmosphere isn't just about chanting. Simply cheering and roaring creates a hell of an atmosphere. Yeah, look, it's not. This isn't porn. We're not faking it. It's like this. It's real. You've got to be real, and people will get off their seats and chant if they see Sanchez go past 4 players and put it in the top corner, or Pogba, you know, scores a goal from 40 yards, or there's a really, you know, we're absolutely bombarding the opposition with loads and loads of decent balls and decent chances, and we're smacking the post, the keeper's making wieldy saves. The crowd aren't going to sit there like that then going, can I have a selfie? You know, it's not going to happen. So I definitely do agree with those fans who say we need to do more, we need to be more entertaining, and it's a middle ground. Mr. United has made a contribution. He says we need to change our system to 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Diamond to fit our best players. With 4-2-3-1, we're losing the midfield, especially in the big games. It's heavily contributing to bad performance and has to be fixed. Thanks for that. I do want to talk about especially the number 10 with Flex, because I've got a theory on that as well. But just to sort of move it on a little bit from the atmosphere, Mourinho is definitely dividing opinion at the moment. And I wanted to start off with this, but we've gone into a different topic. But look, I've said this for years. My opinion after on a watch along or on a match reaction is going to be very different to what it is 24 hours later. And I've always given that disclaimer, because we're human beings and we are passionate. And when that team news came out yesterday and I saw Martial on the bench, I called it a disgrace. And to a point, I still think it is a disgrace. But after the game, because we don't get the context, Mourinho said no one was punished for being on the bench. It was about rotating the squad and using the squad. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, you know, he might be lying, but it's a justification. It is the anniversary of the 60th anniversary of Munich, and he played Scott McTominay, a player who's been at the club since he was 9. Quite a symbolic thing to do. Whatever you think about McTominay, there's no more fitting weekend to do that than that. So, you know, 24 hours later on, we've won 2-0. You look at that Liverpool-Spurs result. You look at the progress we're making year on year. I think that result between Liverpool and Spurs more or less guarantees us Champions League football next year, which is one of the things achieved. We do get locked in the moment, Flex, of the passion and the moment, and I would never want that to go. And I don't like the infighting between fans, calling people being abusive and that, because I mean, you obviously got a little bit about Martial yesterday, but Mourinho, he does skirt that line, I think, of he's not got total support. I don't care what anybody says, he hasn't. There are people waiting, like they were at half-time yesterday in the Watch Along Live comments. It was Jose out, which I don't understand. Why do you think he does? He is on that sort of line, and he sort of provokes it himself with the 3rd time he's had a go at the crowd this season.
Yes, it's not nice to see. Obviously, we want to back the manager. I think some people just will probably never warm to him. There are some people whose hearts will never be won over by him. Maybe until he gets to Premier League. And there's some people, even if he does win a Premier League, they'll still say, yeah, he's not winning it, you know, how Sir Alex would have, or whatever. There's just some fans who just don't warm to him, and I don't think what's helped him is he's got a reputation for playing conservative football, pragmatic football, safe football, and at a club like ours where that's not what we're associated with, it's very difficult for him to break them molds. And we say in football, you know, the easiest way to win people over, win fans over, players, whatever, is results. You know, so the only way you can try and win them over is to just keep trying to win stuff. I mean, last year was a good start. Okay, we didn't finish well in the Premier League, but with the 2 trophies, it was a a good way of showing that he means business, and he's got the players on board. And we wanted a springboard this season, like a title challenge. We haven't had it. There's still been some games where, again, he's still trying to work out our identity. I still look at us and I still think, how do we play? What's our style of play? And I know under Mourinho it's easy to say, well, it's negative, it's this, it's that. But, we scored more goals than we scored last season and conceded less. So the progress is there. I just think he's just one of them managers. He's a bit like Marmite. You either love Mourinho or you hate him. It's as simple as that. Me, I've always liked Mourinho. Always. And I'm not just saying that, because he's Man United manager, but I've always liked Mourinho. I've always liked his cockiness. I like some of his arrogance. I like his swagger. I like his caution to the wind when, because you look at people saying, oh, we're so negative. Look at the teams that have played against Liverpool and all them high-scoring games. They come on the wrong end of the result. We've gone there and stacked up a 0-0. Yes, it wasn't the greatest thing because after we lost Huddersfield, but potentially it could have been a really good point. And that's just how he formulates his title-winning sides. Yes, we wasn't a title-winning side this year, but that's his recipe for success. He's not going to change. So for me, I like that. Yes, it's not the traditional Man United way, what we've been used to, but I'm someone who can kind of adapt with the times, move with the times, and there's no point thinking about when Sir Alex was here. He's gone. With nobody in the history of Man United, I'll probably go as far as saying is going to replicate that. So we have to move on. But I just think it's a job that Mourinho is just like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting future, certainly, like you say. I mean, it's just not all about winning at Manchester United, because if it was, everyone would be ecstatic. We won 2 trophies last year. Hardly any other English club did that, apart from who won the title, Chelsea. And we've got more points, we've got more goals, but it's the football. I think it's the football's the problem. United fans are greedy, but there's that great quote from Sir Matt Busby about, we strive for perfection. If we don't get that, we'll settle for excellence, and that's the mantra of Manchester United, and that's what he's up against. And I think Mourinho, as I said yesterday, Mourinho, well, we'll come back to that actually, I'll keep it in the head. Mourinho's personality is nowhere to be seen. Listening to his comments don't make me want to roar, says Aaron Ives. Chris McTighe, until he plays the United way, he'll struggle to get all the fans. And there was a comment about Mkhitaryan saying Mourinho ruined Mkhitaryan. Look, I reacted to that yesterday and got quite a lot of stick by people saying being disrespectful to Mkhitaryan. I don't care. He doesn't play for Manchester United anymore. He plays for Arsenal. And the day I sit back and go, wasn't Mkhitaryan great for Arsenal, is the day I stop watching football. There is a rivalry there. There's a rivalry with Liverpool. He's an Arsenal player. I don't wish him well. I don't want Arsenal to do well. That's the football I grew up with. But what I will say is this, and I think we should draw a line under it. I am nicking it. It was Bilbo Rocks tweeted it yesterday, but it got me thinking, and he's spot on. Mkhitaryan was failing at Manchester United. At Arsenal, he appears to fit them like a glove in relation to the way they play. Alexis Sanchez looks brilliant as a Manchester United 7. We needed a number 7, and Alexis Sanchez looks like he was made for the role. At the end of the day, swap deals never seem to happen these days. If Arsenal have got Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan and they're happy, and we've got Alexis Sanchez and we're happy, then fair play to both Arsenal and Manchester United for doing a deal that not many other clubs do anymore, and making a situation where Sanchez was going to leave Arsenal, United get something they need, Arsenal get something they need, and we crack on and we go our separate ways. I don't see the need for the one-upmanship anymore. Let's just move on. They do their thing, we do our thing. I'm very happy with the Sanchez deal, and if they're happy with Mkhitaryan, crack on. I mean, I don't know whether you want to add anything to that, Flex.
Yeah, I know you said you don't wish Mkhitaryan well, and I have to say I kind of do wish him well, because I know there was a lot of fans when he was playing poorly for us, and let's face it, he was given multiple chances at Man United. People who don't watch Man United, so the Arsenal fans and other clubs who don't watch Man United week in, week out like we do, it's easy to look at the Mkhitaryan situation and say Jose ruined him. We know Jose gave him ample chances. He gave him chances at number 10, give him chances on the left, give him chances on the right, give him chances in number 3. It just didn't work. Saying that, he was part of some good memories that we had last year, the Europa League being the most prominent one. And there were little glimpses, the goal against Tottenham last year when we need to win and he pops up and scores. There were glimpses that, we knew we got a good player when we got him. It just didn't work. And that's sometimes how football goes. I have to agree. I actually am happy to see him do well, because I'm a football fan, second to a United fan, and I like to see good players play well. And I know Arsenal are rivals, and I don't want him to go and win things at Arsenal. Of course not. I don't want Arsenal to win anything. But I do wish him well because he's a good footballer, and you know he looks like he's at home at Arsenal. I know it's only one game. We'll see how they do against in a harder game against Spurs, but you know he looks like. I was saying to someone on Twitter today, I will admit that at the beginning it looked like we got a Rolls Royce and they got Fiesta, but now it does seem as in it was just a straight swap, and actually for both teams it was the best thing. We got a guy who can hang that number 7 shirt on his shoulders and take it by the scruff of the neck, and they got a player in Mkhitaryan who will probably help out with Aubameyang, and great for them. So we move on. Yeah, we move on. But I'm actually happy to see him do all right, because I don't want to see him just completely fail in England and go back as a flop. Do you know what I mean? That's just me.
At least I openly admit I don't want Arsenal to do well. I think all you and everybody else who's saying they want him to do well are actually probably disrespecting Arsenal more than I do, because I just think it's because there's so many points behind us that if he does well, who cares that they're so far behind us? It's like there was a great comment here. Phil F says, well, what until he scores against us? Are you going to still wish him well then? Or what about next season if Arsenal suddenly do really well and we're going for the title? Is everyone still going to be wishing Mkhitaryan well then? I think the rivalry has to kick in from the minute he goes there, to be honest. But I am probably a little bit old-fashioned, and I know a lot of people agree with you, Flex, on it. So,
yeah,
there we go.
I see what you... Yeah, if you was asking me that if he was playing Arsenal tomorrow at the Emirates, then I probably want him to have the worst game of his life. As football fans, we are fickle. But initially, I think I've said my goodbyes and I wish him well. After that, yeah, I get what you mean. But it is nice to see him do all right, I suppose.
You know what? He's a nice bloke. We all know his backstory. There's a bit of tragedy there, and he is a nice bloke. There's a lot of footballers who play for United and other clubs who clearly are, they probably are massive egos. Mkhitaryan, a bit like Mata, he doesn't have that. But you're right. He is. He's had his.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he's had his opportunities, hasn't he?
If Mata went somewhere, right? Would you? I know if he goes to a rival, yeah, I know they play for a different team, etc. But think what a nice guy Mata is. Would you wish ill on him? I don't mean like by getting injured, but you'd still wish him well. Do you know what I mean? I know Mkhitaryan isn't that caliber of player for us and hasn't given us that outstanding service, but he did seem like a nice guy. You look at the struggle he's come through, and he just didn't work out. He's a good player.
Tajdron Roach says he wants him to break his leg. Andrew Southwick's just deleted it. You didn't need to, Andrew. I thought it was a bit of banter.
Yeah, I don't like stuff like that, man. I don't wish players to get injured. I don't care who they are. You should never wish for players to get horrific injuries.
Carmichael says, no, I don't want Mickey to do well in a top 6 club. Look, Mata, similarly, if Mata goes to Liverpool, I don't want him to do well. I hate Liverpool. And I don't really, I'm old-fashioned about that, and I can't help it. But as I said, you hit the nail on the head. Mkhitaryan, I won't have all this Mourinho ruined Mkhitaryan, because we were 4-0 FC at the start of the season, and he was stat padding, and he was getting loads of space at number 10, playing on the wings, like you say. This part of the bus myth is a joke. We've scored more goals than most teams this season. We parked the bus at Anfield, like you said. He played in a team that was doing very, very well, and his form just started to go off a cliff. The move was right for him, and
yeah, definitely.
Fair play. It looks like Arsenal might suit him, and I just think ultimately the deal between Manchester United and Arsenal, because Arsenal said they'll never they'll never do Van Persie again. I think everybody needs applauding. I think it works for everybody, and why be pig-headed and stubborn about something that's actually, on the face of it, everybody seems to be very, very happy with. So, crack on, like I say. The next thing I want to talk about is the number 10 position, funnily enough. Lingard played yesterday as the number 10. Sanchez and Mata seemed to swap around a bit, but definitely from what I saw, Lingard was the number 10. I know he scored the great goal against Yeovil, but it's 4 Premier League performances in a row from Lingard where I think he's been pretty average. He's brilliant when he gets the ball, and he did it a couple of times yesterday, where he gets the ball, he's allowed to turn, and he runs from sort of between the halfway line and the penalty box, and runs at them and gets a shot off. Against Spurs, they'll never let him do that. I don't think Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool will let him do that. I don't think in the Champions League teams will let him do that, because they're better teams. But against teams like Huddersfield and Yeovil, they'll let him do it. For years, I think United, we just missed that guile and sort of creativity that I suppose what Mkhitaryan was meant to do, what a David Silva does for Man City, what Ozil tends to do for Arsenal. We miss that. Well, I think we do. I mean, some people seem to think we should go to a 4-3-3 and not have a number 10. Some people think we should play Pogba there, but I think it'd be too far forward and you won't get those passes like yesterday that led to the penalty. What was your well, you know, not just yesterday, what's your sort of thought on that? Do you think United do need the number 10? Do you think that is an issue for them? We're not creating a lot of chances.
Yeah, I do think it is. We've been struggling with that link between midfield and attack since the last, 2 seasons, well, longer probably. We haven't, when we got Mata, you're thinking number 10, when we got him from Chelsea, it hasn't really worked out. He's very clever at coming off the right-hand side, and fair play to him. He's been playing well, so that's probably his best position for us. We get Mkhitaryan, we think he can play as a 10, didn't work out. Lingard, in the form of his life, like you said, against the lesser teams, so it looks good. It looks, and he's unplayable for a bit, but then that kind of fizzles out. Zlatan, we're flirting with that idea, coming back and playing there. He's just going to be injured for the foreseeable and obviously probably end up leaving. It is something we do need to address. I do think 4-3-3 is the right way to go, to be honest, because we've got this problem. I think the best way around it is a 4-3-3, because I agree with you in terms of Pogba playing number 10. If we have him there, you don't get that penetration from the middle of the park. In terms of, look at the pass he played yesterday where Mata brought it down, and then we get the penalty from it when he lays it on for Sanchez. His range of passing is fantastic. If he's just outside the box all the time, we're going to miss that creativity from those sorts of areas on the pitch. And Pogba he can be a box-to-box midfielder. Yes, we want to see him further up the pitch, but he's got legs on him. He can move about the pitch. I don't want to see him just as number 10. We need to get a number 10. I do think that. I do think we need that link. We struggle to create chances. And to be fair, you look at what Alexis was doing yesterday. He'll drift in off that left-hand side into that number 10 position and start interchanging with Lingard. And that little link-up play was really good. The little 1-2s, he injects pace into the game. He injects pace into what we're trying to do. The only problem I see with that is against bigger teams. You see against Tottenham, I know it was a bad start to the game, but against better teams, he can't just vacate that space and go looking for it and try and be the number 10 from the left or be the number 10 from the right. Against lesser teams, yeah, great. But teams with a proper midfield who've got people in there who will mark you out the game, you need to have that solid base. So you need to have your 2 in there, and then your number 10 dropping off when you haven't got the ball to make the midfield free. So I think because we haven't got that player right now, we need to look at that in the summer. But I think for now, the 4-3-3 would probably suit us best, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Jonathan Gore, but funnily enough, has just made a contribution. He says in the summer, I think we need another centre midfielder like Milankovic-Savic from Lazio before we go into a 4-3-3, as well as a left-footed winger who can cut inside, as well as wingers who can cross, and a ball-playing centre-back to really complete. That list got quite big, Jonathan, didn't it? I thought it was going to start off quite small, but yeah, I think Herrera can't be counted on, can he, this season? God knows what's happened there. Fellaini's obviously out till the end of March. McTominay, debatable whether you could trust him. So it really does leave us with Matic and Pogba, and Carrick obviously can only play a bit part now as well. So we do need to dominate the midfield again, says Anthony Evelyn. And if Martial leaves, I'm sorry, that's when I'm done with Jose, says Brevy Boy. Let's bring that in, actually. Good point by Brevy Boy there. You had your video. Remember to drop a like on the video, everybody. 417 at the moment. It'd be nice to go past 500 while we're live. You spoke about Martial yesterday. I spoke about Martial. We didn't know what each other had said. I only saw it when I was putting up the fan cam, what you'd said. I am concerned about Martial. I don't. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, stop moaning. He rested him. He wasn't punishing him." Well, I watched the game on Wednesday. I thought Lukaku was rubbish. Lingard was rubbish. Lingard's not been good for 4 games for me, but he still gets picked every game. Martial, put out on the right wing, didn't deserve that against Spurs. Gets dropped the following weekend, and I do feel that it has been going on since Mourinho came here. He publicly does say things about Martial that are not positive quite regularly. He very rarely says positive things about him. I have suspected for a long time that for whatever reason, Mourinho's not a big fan of Martial. And Martial is a massive fan favourite. And Mourinho doesn't really seem to take that into account. Whether he should do or not is another matter. Fellaini, on the other hand, is clearly not a fan favourite. And fans clearly don't want him at the club. But Mourinho goes out of his way to constantly publicly praise him, and on Friday says, I'm begging him, even though he's injured, to sign a contract. Mourinho's a very intelligent man. He's not going to not know that the majority of the fans love Martial and the majority of the fans don't want Fellaini here, but he decides to sit with the against the fans on Fellaini and against the fans on Martial. What do you think that's about? And do you have concerns about Martial?
Yeah, I mean, I know some people were saying in the comments of the video I made, saying that, Martial seems to be, out of favour. I know it is only 2 games, but if you look at it, it kind of looks like, the first game that Sanchez is in, Martial gets shifted out to the right. He hasn't played there pretty much all season. His best work he's been doing is from the left. I'm saying Sanchez is more versatile. He can play anywhere across the front 3, in my opinion, including the number 10 as well. He should be the guy to kind of that we need to accommodate. We didn't get Sanchez to replace Martial. Martial is arguably our best player with Pogba. He's fantastic, and the form he's been in, I just found it a really weird situation, and I could see it. I was tweeting about it. I was saying it before. Fantastic, we got Sanchez. I don't want to take the shine off it and be negative and etc. But if Jose starts playing him instead of Martial, we're gonna have a problem. Martial is so young. He's got another 10 plus years. Sanchez is 29. We'll probably get another 2.5, 3 years out of him at the best. Yeah, and I just think as a dynamic, if you're just looking at our front line with Martial on one side and Sanchez on the other, I just believe it's a whole different proposition. Now I get it, it's 1 game, so we got to see. We got to see how Jose plays this, because when you said about you get 24 hours after the game, you listen to the press conference, and you kind of do see a bit of a different take on it. Even people saying to me, "Calm down, Flex. It's only 1 game." And to be fair, they're probably right. It was just I think it's because I thought it would happen before. I was worried about it happening before it did, and then when it did, I just thought, well, hang on a minute. I hope. I'm saying I hope, because I'm not saying it is, but I hope this is the beginning of Jose trying to not get rid of Martial, because I don't think he wants to, because last season he was very critical of Martial. Let's face it, Martial was going through a lot of personal stuff. I remember seeing Martial's ex-missus do a massive interview in the Sun. He cheated on her and all this nonsense. He was going through a lot, and he's a young kid. He answered the questions asked of him of Jose this season, and has stepped it up massively, and taken us out of some big holes this season. Man, he's got some valuable points. So I think he's shown he wants to stay. He's a fan favourite. He's committed, but I just don't want to see his confidence knocked because of the signing of Alexis Sanchez. I want to see them play together. That to me makes us a total different dynamic going forward with all of those players in it.
I think with Martial, it's probably one of those topics to park definitively until the Newcastle game this time next week, because if he doesn't play in that game, then I think there's an issue. If he does play, then we give Mourinho the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he just did give him a little bit of a rest. But there's a lot of people talking about, I'll bring it up, it wasn't planning on doing it. There's an article on the website, theunitedstand.com, about Patrick Kluivert, who, not Patrick, Justin, his son, who is at Ajax, 18, didn't play in the Europa League final last year. He was part of the squad. Mourinho spoke to him on the pitch. He's known him since a kid, from Barcelona when he was a coach there. And we apparently are in advanced talks for him. I think I said last summer, keep an eye on that, because his agent's Mini Raiola. And we know United love to do stuff with Mini Raiola. Mkhitaryan was his agent, so he's earned quite a bit out of this recently as well. He's about 5'7", I think. Very fast, very skillful. But we've bought players from the Dutch league, wingers especially, that have flopped before Memphis. So I don't know. Maybe we will go for him. The thing is, if we do go for him, we do like to buy young players, and he is going to be very cheap. He's only got a year left on his contract, so we could go and get him in the summer for about 10 million, which is what the report is. Personally, I think, why not? £10 million, exciting, quick player. I don't know whether you've got anything to add, Flex, whether you know anything about him, but he could, at that price, why not?
It's hard because he's a young player. Yes, he looks exciting. I get it, but it's not really something we actually need. I mean, we got Rashford, who's probably going to be slightly short of games now. Sanchez has come. We want to put a lot of development into him. Obviously, Martial is very young. Lingard's still youngish. So, for 10 million, it's probably worth a gamble, but I don't see it as a necessity. We've got enough young players there that are coming in. And I don't want to see, Rashford kind of keep going down the pecking order. I know he's got to prove it, But we've got enough there. We've got Angel Gomez that we want to try and get into the side more as an attacking player. So if it happens, yeah, obviously it'd be nice to see, but I don't really see that as being an absolute necessity. I don't think we need to, we have to go for him by any chance. But football's about opportunities. If we can get him for 10 million, then yeah, why not? But it's not something I think we should definitely pursue. I wouldn't be upset if we didn't get him, put it that way.
Well, no, we've got Tahith Chong, who's 18 as well, and playing for the United under-23s again today against Derby County. His second start. Can't be long until he gets us a senior call-up.
Yeah, he looks fair, actually. He's the one with the big hair, but yeah, he looks a good player. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, a lot of people talk about Angel Gomez, but I've been saying about Chong for a while, pretty much ever since we signed him, because I remember doing a bit of research on him when he was at his previous club in Holland, and he's a fantastic player. He's just got my only concern with him is he was out most of last year with a knee injury, and you just worry injury can be the thing that destroys a young career. But fingers crossed, he's getting closer and closer to the first team, and I would hope to see him a couple of times before the end of the season, because when you think back over the years, Ryan Giggs burst on the scene at like 17, so even George Best years and years ago. So when you're a player like that who's basically a winger and skillful, you tend to see them break through when they're really, really young. So hopefully with Chong, we will see something of him. I really like the look of him. Get rid of the Deadwood should be our first priorities, Mark, this summer, says Andrew Ellis. Eventually, hopefully, we will do. Chelsea coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got Newcastle next week. I think we've got to win that. And then Chelsea at the end of the month. Really, I think we'll win this. I was talking about it yesterday, Flex. You can have the sort of pantomime with Liverpool and Klopp and Mourinho, and Pep and Mourinho obviously don't like each other, but it's professional. It's never allowed to burst out into a war in the press. No doubt, Conte and Mourinho, if Conte survives that long, I mean, if he loses to Watford tomorrow, I think he's in big trouble. Conte and Mourinho, I think there's a leak today from Chelsea Football Club, from their officials, saying that they blame Mourinho for what's happened to Chelsea in the last month, because he's clearly messed Conte up in the head, which I think is true. But this game at the end of the month is going to be absolutely amazing, I think. It's going to be an absolute inferno, because they don't like each other, Conte and Mourinho, which is abundantly clear. And I was saying yesterday, I've got a bit of a theory that I think Mourinho, our next home game, I think, is Chelsea at the end of the month.
It's Chelsea, yeah.
Because whatever happens in the FA Cup, we're away. We're away next week, and we're away Sevilla. So this was his last opportunity to sort of say to the home crowd, you're quiet. I think it was tactically brilliant by Mourinho. I think he's purposely looking at that Chelsea game and going, I want the crowd rocking and I want the right team. And I also think the reason he dropped Pogba and maybe Martial and everybody else was to be, I want everybody on their game for that Chelsea game, because it's almost like if Conte came to Chelsea and beat Mourinho, the press are on Mourinho's back for very little. He will be humiliated by that.
Yeah, I do. It is a massive. That is like the actual meaning of a grudge match. That's like, do you know what I mean? A real grudge match, like a local football game when you hate the other manager from around the way and you can't wait to play his team to do him over. It's like a proper. They've had the war of words, and when it comes to game time, that's where it's it's kind of going to be settled there and then. And if Mourinho's on the wrong end of that, we're on the wrong end of that result. God help us, because they have absolutely ramped it up. And on the other side, you'll see the old school Mourinho, fist pumping, running up and down. You will see that. You will see that. We've got to beat Chelsea. We have to, because after calling him out and having those war of words, it's going to be a huge game, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be talking to the fans after the game if we don't win that game. There are going to be some angry people outside Old Trafford, I'll tell you that. But on that Conte thing, I don't think Jose could be blamed for what's going on at Chelsea right now. That's their own fault. They've bought poorly in the summer. They've sold poorly in the summer. They've let all their youngsters out on loan. That's their business. Chelsea just seem like a poorly run club at the moment. They don't know what direction they want to go in, etc. That's Conte's homesick. He doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't feel backed by his board, etc., etc. He's been moaning about all that stuff, and then on top of that, the Mourinho thing just put the final nail, as they say, because it was just insult to injury, wasn't it? Really. So You're right. He might, if he survives that long, if they lose against Watford, he's in serious trouble. But I expect him to be Chelsea manager by the time we play him. And like I said, that game is just absolutely massive, massive, massive game. We have to beat them. We have to beat them.
Mini Diver says Conte versus Jose white collar main event with Mark Goldbridge versus Gary on the undercard. Who's Gary?
Who's Gary?
Who's Gary? Who's Gary? I hope it's not Gary Neville. Anyway, yeah, it's I just think it's going to be massively intriguing. I was just thinking when Flex was talking there about the touchline stuff. I mean, they both are managers that like to stand out in their technical area. They don't like each other. I mean, it's been like there's been talk about mental cases and the bribery. So you know, I can't see him resolving it. It's going to be interesting. And if like you say, Flex, if we win that game and Mourinho is pumping and everything like that, that's one thing that will get a vast swathe of those who are uncertain about Mourinho on his side.
100%, exactly, and that will give us such a lift, because it's kind of like when your friend starts a little beef with someone, and then they call you in for help to back them up when they go to the fight. That's what it's like. Mourinho started this. Now he wants all the fans to help him turn up at the fight and beat up Conte. That's what it seems like. So we got to back him, man. Mourinho's our guy. Man United's our team. So yeah, we got to turn up, man. We got to be loud, and you want the crowd on his side for sure. And there will be all those little indirects, you know, because you know Mourinho could play it, you know, one of two ways. He could do the running past Conte's touchline if we score and doing that kind of indirect, or he can do that kind of smug, give him a little wink, like, do you know what I mean, just to rile him up. So it'd be interesting to see how Mourinho does it. Mourinho might think that I've won the war of words. I'm in his head. I won that. I'm just going to try and be classy about it, which is kind of like an indirect in itself, trying to be friendly now at this point. That's like even more insult to injury, to try and almost not act like his friend, because he can't. They don't like each other, but to do that whole indirect thing, oh yeah, Mr. Conte, you know, he's a great manager, top manager, one, you know, give him a bit of praise if after the loss. That's kind of patronising. So be interesting to see how he goes with that.
We've sort of come full circle, really, because we were talking about the crowd and getting the crowd up. Funnily enough, I remember being at the Chelsea game last April, like I was saying, and I remember the team news coming out, and it upset a lot of people. Were like, "What?" I think Martial was benched again, and I think Lingard and Rashford were up front, and it didn't look like a very good team. Obviously, we won the game. Chelsea won the title, but it was a tactical masterclass by Mourinho. But what did happen is United, from minute one, were up for it. They bombarded Chelsea. They created chances, and the crowd were up for it from minute 1 to minute 90, and they played a massive part. And I think that's how we win that. We will beat Chelsea. There's no way we won't beat them. We should have beat them at Stamford Bridge. We started off really well for 15 minutes, and then we didn't adjust to their tactical switch. But we'll beat them, Manchester United. I'm convinced about it.
Yeah, at home, I think we'll be too strong for them at home, and they're not in a good space right now. They look disorganised. They look like they don't know what direction they're trying to play. Conte was obviously putting Batshuayi in, didn't fancy him. He's now gone. They've got Giroud now, though, which, you know, be interesting to see how he fits in. I know a lot of people would just laugh at Giroud and say, "Oh, not bothered," but he is a threat. You know, he scored against us plenty of times. He's a threat, and if Chelsea get him going, it could be resurgent under them, especially after their awful loss against Bournemouth. You know, they'll be looking to bounce back. So it will be a tough game, but like you said, I think we'll be bang up for it. I think the players will be on it. And then look back at last season, we were looking at the team sheet thinking, "Oh, what's going on here? He's dropped Zlatan," you know, and the pace that we had that day, and then, you know, we done a number on what's his name, on Hazard. You know, I remember Herrera just man marking him completely out of the game. I remember the first goal. I think it's like nearly like a handball, and he played it through, and then, you know, Rashford was on the end of it. But, you know, we were all over him. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I think Giroud's a decent signing. I was surprised Arsenal let him go, because I think as a plan B, he was very, very good.
Well, he should be. Let him go. That's what they do to rivals, isn't it? They let the players go to them. So it's not really a surprise.
If the current point trend continues, says Ed Jamie, Man City will win the league against us at the Etihad. They're probably doing that on purpose, because it's the only game of the season where they can definitely fill it when we go there. So they've probably done that on purpose, so they can have a proper celebration. I think Herrera or McTominay gives us a little balance in the midfield, says Ashvin. Can't wait for United versus Chelsea, says Harry Cohen. And different games to Hazard, man marks, as Tom Gerrard. We did, yeah, Herrera did man mark him, didn't he? And okay, well, Flex is off to Munich in the early hours of the morning to do this, well, to be there for the 60th anniversary of the Munich tragedy. We obviously put the poem up this afternoon. If people haven't seen it, I didn't write that poem, by the way. I got it off a website. I think it was anonymously written. If you're a true United fan, make sure you go and listen to that poem, because it will take your legs away. It was just, you know, it took me about 10 times reading that to do the video. It was very, very difficult and very emotional, because it is an emotional time. And what we're trying to do on the United stand is, you know, we don't want to teach people to suck eggs or anything like that, but we do appreciate that we have a very global support and a very wide demographic between ages. I know people as young as 8 watch, and I know people as old as 78 watch. So some people will be very acutely aware of what this is all about. Some people will know what it's about but not know the depth. So over the next few days, the United Stand is a community. I think it's the best Manchester United community, and you make it. So what we're going to try and do over the next few days is give you the story, give you the background, what it means, and give you some depth. So because if you are a Manchester United fan and you don't know what it's all about, you're missing out on something. Because if you think you love United now, it will take it to another level, because it is the greatest story ever told. Tragedy, resurrection. It's a fantastic story, and that's what we're going to try and do for you over the next few days. So listen to the poem. If you've not listened to that, watch that after this. And then Flex, you're off to Munich tomorrow, which is obviously you're going to be there where it all happened.
Yeah, crack of dawn. I'm going to the airport from 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's important that you know, we remember exactly what's happened. I mean, there's a lot of fans, in my opinion, that are from the younger generation, you know, and even if you're a new kind of Man United supporter, it's very important to know the history of what you're supporting, and you know what happened on that day in Munich all those years ago, 60 years ago, coming up to now. It changed the club. Change the club forever, you know, and it's important. It's not. I'm not a historian. I'm not David Attenborough. I'm not about to, you know, try to educate people. But it's just more about raising awareness. You know, there's a lot of people that don't really understand that it's the equivalent of, you know, Pogba and Martial and all these young, exciting players. God forbid, you know, going to a Champions League game and never coming back. You know, and it's a huge thing. So please do look out for the videos, guys. We want to raise awareness and have those people in our thoughts, because it really did define and change our club forever from that point on. So yeah, please look out for it. We'll be out there for the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody who watches the United Stand and everything like that, because we've been doing this for 3 years now, and being able to send Flex and a camera guy over to Munich would not be possible without all you lot getting involved in the channel and spreading the word and believing in it. And this is the sort of thing, you know, we want to be able to do in the future. We want to be able to go to US tours and stuff like that. So thanks to everybody. I'm looking forward to. It's the wrong word. I wish we weren't going over there. I wish this never happened, which in itself is an intriguing thing. Where would Manchester United be? Where would English football be if this tragedy hadn't happened? Which is, I'm going to do a video tomorrow about 10 minutes, which is, I did one last year talking about why they're the greatest Manchester United team ever, and that's around there somewhere. I'll try and get it up so people can watch that. But tomorrow I'm going to do a video, probably put it up about lunchtime, about some of the things that people won't know about. Some really interesting sort of stories, and the what ifs, and who came to our rescue. Some amazing things. And like I say, wouldn't say I'm looking forward to what Flex is doing, but I am wanting to see it, because it did happen, and getting the views of those fans, because there'll be worldwide fans over there. You know, we want to call them tourists, do we? I bet there's people from Scandinavia, America, you know, Asia. There'll be all sorts of fans there that Flex is going to try and speak to and get their thoughts on it as well. And that's what makes the club what it is. So just keep getting involved and watch it over the next few days. And, you know, Huddersfield was a win. Newcastle's next week. For the next few days, it's not really about signings or fixtures or results. It's about Manchester United, and it's not about this season. It's not about these managers. It's not about these players. It's about what Manchester United's all about, just for the next few days, because it is important. I know it comes around every year, but it's 60 years this year, and it's always difficult, but it's what makes the club what it is, and we must never ever forget those players. And everybody else who was on there. It wasn't just players, but, you know, from a footballing perspective, the Busby Babes. You know, it's the one thing I always say: the tragedy is a tragedy, but it's not the reason the team's remembered. The team was Manchester United's best ever team. It's better than '99. It's better than '68, and it was taken away. And I think, Flex, you said it a couple of weeks ago, actually. For the modern fan, it's a bit like imagining, you know, it's horrible to say it, Pogba, Martial and all that lot going down in a plane.
Exactly.
In the modern way, that's what it is.
Understand, yeah. It's hard, you know, it happened before all of us were born, and, you know, sometimes we're a bit, not on purpose, but we're a bit ignorant to history and things that have happened before we've come to where we are. But it's very important to realise everything that has happened before us, just in life, and whether it be on our families, in the countries we live in the cultures we're from, they've all happened to shape, you know, where we are today as people and as a society. So sometimes you have to put football to aside and realise what actually happened that day, because you know, people lost their lives, families were torn apart, the country came to a standstill, the world come to a standstill, you know. And similar to the Brazilian team, last year, you know, just because we don't know the team, don't watch the league, it probably wasn't as big in this country, but, you know, that will be forever in their history, you know. And they've had to redo their team, keep going, and the club and the power of football keeps living on, and you have to keep trying to change and keep it going on in memory of those people. So yeah, you know, it is important, and it's about awareness. Like I said, I'm not trying to give people history lessons or dictate to people or tell them what they should be doing. It's just about awareness and having a thought for those people who lost their lives that day.
Yeah, well said. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll have stuff going up tomorrow, and hopefully Flex's stuff will start coming in from tomorrow night and through Tuesday, which is the day on the 6th, obviously.
Yeah.
Hit the like button, everybody. Thanks everyone for watching tonight. Business as usual at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We will do a normal sort of Skype show, and we'll have all the Munich stuff going up around, you know, in the day and Tuesday as well. So thanks for coming on, Flex.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitter as well to follow everything that's going on my side. Flex United Stand, all one word. Let's get interacting and talking all things Man United as usual.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everybody who's watching. You clothes maketh the man and woman, and you certainly make the show what it is. So we're not going to quite hit 190,000 subscribers tonight, but by tomorrow night I think we will do. So another road to 200k, and you're the one driving it. You're the petrol. We're just the car, and we're an empty. I don't know what I'm talking nonsense. But thanks everyone for watching. We will be back tomorrow. Got a video coming up at midday tomorrow, and then obviously live at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And just remember, the one thing I would say is just remember we're Manchester United, and the most important word in that is not Manchester, it's United. And let's stay united for the next couple of days. Thanks everyone, and speak to you all very soon. And we're done, Flex. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. That was a good show. Good show.
Just whizzes by, doesn't it?
Right, as well. Good.